With the end of the Monster Hunter Wilds first open beta, there's been quite a bit of discourse on the internet. The reception for this game has been quite mixed. For those who could play it, they generally enjoyed it, had a good time, thought that the game was immersive, with some features being maybe a little bit too streamlined. While another subsection of players are just having not a great time. They can't even get the game to start, or the game's very choppy, poorly optimized. Help me! Things of that nature. And for those who have played Monster Hunter in the past, depending on which weapon you love the most, you may be really enjoying the beta, or may feel a bit more apprehensive about this game due to the balancing choices made to each weapon. With that said, I wanted to throw my own opinions into the mix. I've been a longtime Monster Hunter fan, starting out from Monster Hunter Freedom on the PSP. As of the making of this video, the game was released 19 years ago, so I think it'd be pretty fair to say that I did grow up with Monster Hunter. And the franchise has evolved drastically from those times to now, so a lot of the things that drew me to Monster Hunter may not be what draws current Monster Hunter players to the game, and I fully recognize that. For example, I'm not the biggest fan of Monster Hunter World or Monster Hunter Rise. Not that there's anything wrong with those games, I actually think those two games are very good. Monster Hunter Worlds, for example, streamlined a lot of things for the better. However, my initial draw to Monster Hunter all those years ago were the more archaic and mysterious aspects of the game. It's obtuse, and I enjoyed that. Maybe I'm a masochist, but having to figure stuff out myself and having the controls not make sense until it really clicks, or learning the secret clawing technique was fun for me. However, that's not the real reason why I didn't jive with Monster Hunter Worlds. You see, Monster Hunter Worlds on release had a problem with its roster. If you were a longtime player. If you are a new player, all the monsters you'll be greeted to are fun, refreshing, exciting. And that was the same feeling for a lot of old players as well, up until the mid-game where you start getting introduced to a lot of returning monsters from many decades past. So if you played for a while, these are familiar. They might have some new moves, but altogether, it's like a been there, done that feeling, alongside a more simplistic moveset on your weapons or a more streamlined access to armor skills, so on and so forth. These are not bad things. Streamlining things or making it more accessible, not a bad thing at all. To be honest, I actually did think that making the game a lot easier and accessible did ruin my enjoyment of Monster Hunter Worlds, but I don't think that's actually the case. Even though Monster Hunter Rise has a lot of mechanics, a lot of nuance, and a lot of crazy stuff you can do and optimize, I also didn't quite jive with that game. But after playing through the Monster Hunter Wilds demo, I kind of realized now that those things did not bother me. Too simple, too complex, too much going on, too little. That's not what makes Monster Hunter fun for me. The key ingredient that I've always looked for is in its wacky fantasy world of Monster Hunter, the sense of immersion that I felt from the earlier games, having to carry around cold drinks and hot drinks in the desert based on the time of day, having to prepare for the locale I was going to. These are things that, for the time, it's not perfect, but it adds that element of always thinking about their environment. And I think Monster Hunter Wilds, at least from the demo, shows that they are doing that again, where they're focusing on the hunting aspect, the exploration aspect, and the environmental aspects, and I couldn't be happier. A lot of care has been put into making this fantasy realism come to life. For example, if you kill a monster and you go away for a while and you come back to the corpse and it's been a couple night and day cycle, the corpse is now rotting. If you put down some bombs or your friends put down some bombs and somebody cooks next to it, it's gonna blow up because you just started a fire next to something highly combustible. To the little things like being able to stand on a monster's carcass instead of clipping through them like older Monster Hunter games, being able to cook on the go using ingredients that you find in the wild, and then seeing a monster make a little sand dune that's pulling you in, bruh. For the monsters who inhabit the lands that we're exploring to be able to shape their environments to better fit their condition is an element that has been explored here and there in Monster Hunter in the past, but never to this extent, and I'm really happy to see how far they push it with the later monsters that we'll probably end up hunting. There's also a lot of systems in the combat and gameplay mechanics that rewards a risk and reward structure that feels increasingly rare in this franchise. Initially, I thought the combat was very weighty for a couple of different reasons. One, I just came from playing Monster Hunter Rise where things were a lot quicker and faster and more arcadey in a sense. And two, I was playing on the PS5. And not to say that the PS5 doesn't run the game decently enough, but playing it on a strong PC compared to a PS5 is night and day. Getting a constant 60 FPS makes all the movements and attacks buttery smooth and fun while still maintaining a little bit of that weightiness to give it the oomph. While playing on the PS5, I'm too spoiled by good FPS, man, where 30 FPS, I feel so sluggish. Anyways, after spending a couple hours on each platform, I've come to the conclusion that it's a good medium between Rise and Worlds. Is the best way to describe it. It's a good mix between spectacle and nuanced decision making without going over the top. That is to say, there's a fluid motion that you can feel, but it all still is grounded and weighty in when you execute your attacks. There are two simple mechanics that really elevates the combat of Monster Hunter Wilds from Monster Hunter Worlds and even Rise. The first has been in the game for quite a while, but we're limited to a couple different mechanics that have long been in fan favorite weapons like guard points for charge blades and the ability to parry everything in longswords has finally been extended to all other weapons in flavorful ways, with the addition of perfect guards and perfect evades. Depending on your weapon choice, dodging or guarding at the right time will not only prevent you from taking damage, but will reward your reflexes with damage bonuses or powerful augmented spectacles like power clashes that you can't really perform anywhere else. This small little addition does a lot for the game, giving players a layer of mastery that was not there before, all the while perfectly complementing Monster Hunter's core gameplay loop, which is to learn a monster and understand its movesets and abilities and try to proactively fight against it and come out on top. The second combat addition that got added is something that is a bit divisive amongst fans of the series, and that is the focus system. The focus system allows every weapon to target their swings precisely now, comparative to before. This mechanic alleviates a lot of stress from players in terms of placing attacks where they want to, like on the head or the tail, which may be upsetting for some because that takes away from the mastery of the movement system in Monster Hunter. It also makes it so attacks with big startup time are a lot more forgiving now, because if you aimed wrong and the monster moved away, guess what? Now you can target the monster still and like swing with it instead of being stuck swinging at nothing. Because of how divisive it is, I'm kind of curious, what are your thoughts on the focus system? Do you like it or do you hate it? Let the community know in the comments below. And if you're having a good time so far, hit that like button and consider subscribing for more Monster Hunter Wilds content. Thanks. After sitting and mulling over the focus system for a while, I came to the conclusion that we'll have to wait to see if it's a good or bad implementation, because not only can we move our attacks more, so can the monsters. There's been more fluid animations that make them harder to read or harder to react to, so if the monster design is good, then the focus system can be very good as well. The focus system also has one other mechanic up its sleeve, and that is the focus strike. In this game, hitting a certain monster part will inflict them with a wound, and when hitting that wounded spot, you'll end up doing a bit more damage. While in the focus mode, you can do a particular attack called a focus strike that when used on a wound consumes it and lets you execute a very cool spectacle that will deal a good amount of damage in a short period of time while giving you a chance to stagger the monster. I was able to use the focus strike to stagger an enemy from hurting my friends while we were playing the demo.
Oh god. Oh god.
So it's a nice push and pull design where you're constantly weighing where you should keep a wound, like on an enemy's head so you get that damage multiplier for as long as you can, or when to consume it to burst down a certain body part of a monster. More importantly than this push and pull, it looks really cool, so if you don't care about any of that and just want to do cool stuff, the wound system allows you to do more of that cool stuff, which is always nice for casual players. Overall, the new additions do a lot to keep me engaged in the combat, despite me being a Monster Hunter boomer who hasn't been the happiest with the direction Monster Hunter has been going with the streamlining of many of the elements that I enjoy. I think the perfect evades, perfect guards, and power clashes, and the focus strikes is a good happy medium between making it fun and accessible for new players and giving veterans who want more to chew on something to master outside of playing longsword or charge blade, which is something that I really appreciate because I don't like being pigeonholed into specific weapons if I wanted some level of complexity. Giving more weapons more nuanced things to play with is always a good thing as long as it doesn't become convoluted. And nothing is less convoluted than dodging or blocking at the exact time in which you need to. That is the most intuitive thing that you can always design in these games. Think about it this way. To get that dodge or that block, you want to do it as late as possible. So that means you're maximizing your DPS anyways before you do this, as you're going to try to wail on the enemy until the very last frame. So if you're looking to become more optimal, even if you don't know about these perfect evades or perfect guards, you're going to stumble upon them in your quest to do more damage. So I love this, and I hope that a lot of people, especially those new to the series, really enjoy this mechanic, because it will empower you to make more risk-reward decisions. Outside of the combat, this game's a whole vibe. The feeling of exploration is here again, and cities on the map themselves is a design decision that I'm excited for. I want to see where it goes, especially now that we have environmental links and lobbies that we can see other hunters in for the towns. It's a great balance between feeling that you're part of a community, but also retaining the difficulty of Monster Hunter, meaning there's not like 7 people attacking a monster in the lobby at the same time. As soon as you go out of town and go explore it, you're instanced again. You can invite up to 4 friends to play with you, but just being able to see people in between your hunts while you're making the armor and stuff gives you this vibe that that you're on an adventure with other people and you're never truly alone. And when you're out there exploring and fighting, you can still see the chatter and things going on. That helps to add a sense of community and longevity to a game that I'm sure fans of this game will appreciate for a long time to come. With that said, I was really annoyed trying to get my friends together in a lobby because there's environmental links and link parties and this and that, and trying to get everyone together was confusing and abstract, and the menu and UI explanation on how to do all that was a bit convoluted, not very clear, and could have been a lot simpler. Just finding out what the heck an environmental link was would have been helpful as well, but these are just beta complaints. I'm sure in the final game, they're not going to pull Monster Hunter Worlds where you can't play through the story with people and it's super annoying to do so. I hope they really learned their lesson because they've been making games like these for a long time. Being able to go through this journey with other people is a big appeal behind Monster Hunter, and I really hope that they don't fluff this up. Make it as easy as you can to play with your friends. Once we all got into the link party together, everything was smooth sailing. It was awesome. Oh, another risk reward design was the forward camp system where you can place camps in certain parts of the map, but only up to a certain amount. Our party that we were playing through, we're discussing where we were putting camps when we were hunting certain monsters. And I thought that was kind of cool, where we're always deciding as a group together how we want to set things up for on the map to be efficient and also to have fun and do it in a way that works for us. The same can be said for the weapon swapping on your secret as well, where we're all discussing like, oh, I'll bring this weapon and that weapon so I can buff you and you can handle this portion and we can swap and do things. And while we're in combat, we're talking about, hey, I'm switching to this weapon pretty soon, so get close to me when you can, blah, 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 blah. It's a nice way to add layers of depth, to add incentives to communicate, and these are very small design decisions that add up to making the game feel a lot better. Overall, this beta has left me super excited for Monster Hunter Wilds. I have not been this excited for a Monster Hunter release since Monster Hunter for You. Fingers crossed, I hope this is everything I'm looking for into Monster Hunter. I hope it's a very immersive experience. And regardless of anyone's play experience in the beta, we all have to praise Capcom here. I'm glazing them super hard for actually releasing this beta for everybody. There's no signups, there's no any special conditions. Theoretically, anybody and everybody could play it and give proper feedback on this game, and hopefully they are receptive to all the feedback that's been pouring out because it's only going to make the game better. And hopefully the finished game is a lot more optimized than what it currently is, because if you can get the game to run smoothly, it's an amazing experience. And I hope even if you can't get the most graphical fidelity out of your rig or system, you'll be able to at least play this game fluidly on medium settings or something like that. And I really, really hope, and this is a small chance it's going to happen, that it will be playable on the Steam Deck on the final release. So that way I can hit up my longtime Monster Hunter buddies and we can all play Monster Hunter portably on a couch or something like we used to back when we were kids. But that's just copium. I don't think it's going to run on the Steam Deck, at least in a playable state, so it is what it is. Anyways, what are your thoughts on Monster Hunter Wilds? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you found this video enjoyable. These are just my takes on it as a disgruntled Monster Hunter veteran. If you enjoyed my yapping about this game, you might also enjoy me talking about another game that I like. Video on screen right now. My name is Forsana, and I'll see you in the next video.